My name's Amanda. I am one of 3 A-level economics teachers at Cirencester College, and we've got a really strong team here with a really nice mix of skills and backgrounds. So I studied economics at university. I went to Manchester and went straight into one of the big 4 accountancy firms where I became a chartered tax advisor. One of my colleagues, Joanna, she attended Cambridge and London School of Economics before becoming an investment banker. So she's also had a career in the financial sector. Finally, our 3rd teacher, Victor, has spent a long time in academia and has recently completed his PhD in economics. Most people that come to college to do A-level economics haven't studied economics before at GCSE, so everybody starts nicely on page 1 together. And when I ask students what they think economics is about, the standard answer is money, which is sort of true, but technically economics is about how we allocate scarce resources as a society. So we think of the different economic agents. On a personal level, perhaps households towards the end of the month before payday, money gets a bit tight and maybe we have to do without a few things or wait till payday. On a firm level, businesses, they also have to make budgeting decisions with a constrained resource. So they get their money from sales revenue, but of course all the different departments within a business all want more money, whether it's for staff pay rises or whether it's for marketing, entertaining, or different things. So again, a budget is a constraint. And then finally, the government, the big agent, they get their money from tax revenue. In the 2024-25 year, they received £1.14 trillion in revenue from tax, which sounds enormous, but they spent more. They spent 1.28 trillion. And so that we had what's called a deficit. That means a shortfall of money. So again, they have to make choices, and particularly if we go to this graphic from the Institute for Fiscal Studies, we can see where the government spends their money. So a big one here is for health, the NHS. And of course, we've seen many recent doctors' strikes asking for higher pay since the pandemic. A couple of other ones just that are of note. So here, 4.8% goes on defence. We know that with the current tensions around the world and the conflicts, we're looking to spend more on our military. Going back to that shortage of money, that deficit, if we haven't got enough money to pay for what we want, of course we have to borrow it. And we all know that when we borrow money, we have to pay interest on it. So a big chunk of the government's budget is now going on interest payments. And as that shortfall increases, that will compound the problem. So we see here as well, the government at budget time having to make choices as to how they allocate their scarce tax revenue. We don't like paying tax. So students that study A-level economics go into a variety of fields. If we think about the economic problem and who is facing that, that leads into a number of careers. So for example, individuals, when they're managing their personal finances, perhaps they want to invest maybe in a pension. So a lot of economics students will go into wealth management and become maybe independent financial advisors. If they want to go into a firm, if they want to go and work within a business, they might become an accountant, helping with the budgeting or helping with pricing decisions. So accountancy and banking is also a really popular career route. And finally, in terms of the government, obviously there are jobs within the government, the civil service. When the government does change their tax legislation, that needs to be drafted and passed into an Act of Parliament. So work for the lawyers as well there. And then finally, ancillary to all of that, of course, if you watch any news report in the evenings, you will probably see an economics correspondent on the news at 10. So journalism is a popular choice. And finally, to the extent that we have a demand for A-level economics, and it's a growing demand, we of course need economics teachers. So there's always that as well. So there are 3 economics papers each year, and they're all 2 hours long. Economics is split between microeconomics and macroeconomics, and then so there's a paper for each of those, and then there's a 3rd paper called Themes, where we combine those 2 disciplines and we consider case studies, so maybe apply it to current topical affairs, things like the economics of climate change, the COVID and furlough issues. We've seen Brexit themed questions, and a really core theme for the themes paper is financial stability and the integrity of the banking sector. In terms of entry requirements for A-level economics, we ask for a minimum 4 in English language. It's quite a strong essay subject. So on the micro and macro paper, there are 2 25-mark essays. So really strong English literacy skills are really important. I think people underestimate that. They perhaps think it's all about the maths. We do also require a minimum 5 in GCSE maths. There's about 20% of the total mark for calculation questions in A-level economics. So I think in terms of trips and enrichment opportunities, every year we try to get a speaker from the Bank of England. Usually that coincides around the time we teach monetary policy, so that's really useful, a visit from them. We've also been visiting in recent years Canary Wharf, the Docklands area in London. A really nice day out is to go to the Docklands Museum and see the history of trade and our docks in London. And also just an opportunity to see the financial district, to see the skyscrapers and have a bit of free time in London. So that's our trips. But I would say where we really excel in economics is in terms of work experience and apprenticeship routes. So this year so far, my first years have already been to many big accountancy firms for insights, to mention a few: PwC, KPMG, Deloitte, BDO and Grant Thornton. So my first years already have been out quite a bit. They've been to banks such as Lloyds. We've got a visit coming up to SJP, St James's Place is a wealth management. We're really lucky to have locally in Cirencester, so we also have a good relationship with them, and they get to meet previous Cirencester College economics students that are now successfully in a career there. So many of our previous students have gone to really good universities, including many Russell Group and sometimes Oxbridge. We also have a really big proportion that go on to school leaver apprenticeships straight from college and maybe do a chartered accountancy degree apprenticeship or possibly into the government. So yes, we do have some really great success stories, and we'll be featuring those as well on our social media feed soon. So in terms of the subjects that pair well with economics, we have a lot of students that do the business type A-levels alongside economics, such as business studies, accounting, etc. Because of the maths component and also the quite heavy requirement of maths at degree level, many of our students, particularly if they're looking for an economics degree in the future, will be studying A-level maths and possibly other mathematical type subjects, maybe physics, for example. I've seen quite a lot of students in recent years that have an interest in economics based on the human geography part of their GCSE geography. So I'm seeing a lot of pairings with geography, and of course economics goes really well with subjects like politics if they're thinking ahead to government and if that's their sort of angle of interest.